Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to That's Just My Opinion. I am Merlin, and today we will be discussing A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, Book 2 of the Court of Thorns and Roses series. So, this book picks up pretty quickly right after Book 1 has ended. We have Feyre. She's back at the Spring Court. She is dealing with some serious PTSD from the events of Under the Mountain and preparing for her nuptials with Tamlin. We also get introduced to a new character named Amarantha, who is a high priestess and is kind of helping Feyre run things. But I'm very sus of her at this point because she's feeling a little too, don't worry, I'll handle it. And I'm like, You also get Tamlin being very overprotective. He's not letting Feyre outside the grounds. You can tell Under the Mountain kind of screwed with him too. And this ends up escalating to a point where Feyre is getting upset because he's not letting her go anywhere, he's not letting her do anything, and he freaks out and explodes in his rage. Like I think it happens like once in book 1, and Feyre like shields herself with air because she's starting to manifest the powers of the other lords who gave her that to bring her back to life. Tamlin is like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Feyre tries talking to Lucien, like, Lucien, you gotta help me, like, I'm dying here, I can't keep living like this. But it gets to a point where Tamlin is not listening to her, she's not listening, but they're still gonna go through with the wedding. She gets to the point where the wedding is happening, she is walking down the aisle, she sees Tamlin at the end, and she starts just having a full-blown panic attack because she doesn't think she deserves this because she's a murderer. She's in her head screaming for someone to save her, and guess who comes swooping in but Rhysand. Yep, Rhys pops in and is like, I'm here to collect on my debt, because she did make the deal with him that she would spend 1 week a month with him. Well, he hasn't collected on that, and it's been 3 months, so he's like, I'm calling in my debt. And she's like, what? And everyone's like, what? And then he swoops her off to the Night Court, leaving a very pissed off Tamlin in his wake. So, yeah, they disappear, and you're like, okay. So, it's like, okay, Night Court, here we go, and she's swept into this beautiful Moonstone Palace, and Rhysand is like, alright, I'm gonna teach you how to read. And you also meet his cousin Mor, who is this very bubbly, very lively personality who's like, I can't wait to meet you, oh my god, Feyre, so nice to meet you. And she's like, what? But while she's there, Rhysand basically like keeps her from like seeing anything important. Like anytime she stumbles across any sort of maps or anything, there's no markers on any of the Night Court territory. And her week ends, she goes back home to Tamlin, and Tamlin basically just starts grilling her for information about the Night Court. What did she see? Blah, blah, blah. And she doesn't have a lot to tell him because Rhysand didn't really let her see anything. Time goes on. She's basically, they've put the wedding on hold, to say the least. It gets to a point where Tamlin calls in some tithes, and this is where I start rubbing into some problems with Tamlin, because Tamlin talks about how much he hated his father, and he hated, like, some of the traditions, and that his father was cruel, yet he also seems to be holding very firm to these traditions. Feyre also asks him if she marries him, if she will become High Lady of the Spring Court, and he says, no, there's no High Ladies, you would just be Lady of the Spring Court. She's like, oh, and you definitely get the feeling that it's like, you will be my wife, but not my equal, sort of thing. And I'm like, alrighty then. And so, things go on, she wants to try to leave, but Tamlin won't let her, and he ends up locking her in the house, like literally sealing her in the house with magic. She has a massive panic attack. Shadow starts ripping out of her. She's totally freaking out, and Mor ends up coming in and spiriting Feyre away to the Night Court where she is going to stay. And she starts talking more with Rhysand. There's lots of bickering, I don't like yous, blah, blah, blah. But she ends up coming to the decision that she is going to stay at the Night Court, that she can't go back to Tamlin because she was dying, basically, at the Spring Court. So she makes the decision that she's going to stay, and Rhysand's like, Okay, I'll let you, if you promise you will never, ever tell anybody these secrets, I will let you leave my court, the Moonstone Palace. And she's like, all right. So he takes her to his townhouse in this secret city called Velaris. And this is where you meet the rest of his inner circle. You have Mor, who's his cousin and a high fae. You have these two Illyrian warriors, which Illyrians are dudes with big bat wings, like what Rhys has. He also has big bat wings, because you find out that he is actually half Illyrian. His mother was Illyrian. And Amren, who is this stupidly powerful ancient being that no one will screw with. So she meets them, she starts kind of settling into life in Velaris, she's starting to get a little better, she's still dealing with a lot of PTSD and issues, but she and Rhysand are getting a little closer, things are starting to happen there, a little flirting, a little back and forth, she's starting to manifest more powers, she's dealing with that, it goes on, and all the while there is the rumblings of Hybern. Hybern is the evil kingdom across the way that Amarantha, the bitch from the last book, was a commander for. And they know that's going to be a problem, and Hybern is looking for something, and he's trying to find the cauldron, which this cauldron is basically what forged the world, and he wants it to do something. Things go on with Rhys and Farah. There's drama where Rhys almost dies, but she saves him, and you find out that Rhys and Farah are mates. So Farah's a little mad when she finds this out because she didn't realize that they were mates. So she's a little ticked at Rhys for not telling her, but she gets over it and they end up being all hunky-dory, lovey-dovey. And so the end of the book comes where they must go to Hybern because they've got this magical book. Because there's a whole side quest of go get the book, where they get the book and they're going to, you know, try to stop the cauldron and nullify its powers, but they get there and it doesn't go right. And then, oh no, Farah's sisters are brought in, and there's these 6 human queens that are like wanting to become immortals. I'll get into my thoughts on that. And Hybern is like, they're like, well, how do we know it works? And Hybern's like, well, I have these 2 mortals. Oh, because that's the other thing. Tamlin totally sided with him so he could get Farah back, because he also wants Hybern to break the bond between Farah and Rhysand, which he doesn't know that it's more than just the bond of the deal they made, but like the mating bond. So anyway, back to the queen. They're like, well, how do we know if the cauldron will work and turn us to be, you know, immortal? And Hybern's like, well, convenient. I have 2 other human women here we can test this on. So he shoves Elaine in first. She comes out and she's now high fae. Lucian sees her and Lucian realizes, Elaine is my mate. So drama there. And then Nesta is taken and she's fighting the whole way, and they finally shove her into the cauldron and she takes something from the cauldron. She comes out with more power than what she should have because Nesta apparently ripped something out of the cauldron and comes out as high fae, and oh boy, here we go. Farah ends up pulling some sneakiness of pretending that her bond, they break the bond with Rhys, which is just their deal that he would have to spend a week with her. And she pretends that she wants to go back with Tamlin and be with Tamlin, and that Rhys brainwashed her. And so that ends the book with her, with all of the night crew spiriting away with her sisters, and she goes back to the Spring Court with Tamlin and Lucian to plot her revenge and deal with Hybern. So, I like this one. I thought it was pretty good. I really liked the relationship between Farah and Rhysand, how it developed. I thought it was really natural. With the... My problem starts getting into the bigger geopolitical conflict stuff. With, like, the 6 human queens. I will say, as far as the romance goes, it's enjoyable. I liked it. It's more of a I don't like you to lovers situation. I wouldn't say full-blown enemies, but it toes that line. It's enjoyable, it's fine. I do think Tamlin's character takes a nosedive off a cliff and crashes horribly at the bottom. It is set up in the first book of his anger and all this stuff, but it feels a little 180-ish. So I was disappointed that Tamlin's character took a nosedive off a cliff. But as far as like the bigger world stuff goes, is that you find out in the Night Court, there's actually 2 separate courts, the Court of Nightmares and the Court of Dreams. The Court of Nightmares is basically the public face of the Night Court, that they're what Amarantha based her court off. Just awful, awful, horrible, horrible. And the Court of Dreams is what Valaris is, and it's this perfect little paradise of artists and yada yada yada. So, I mean, it's an interesting concept, but it leads into problems in the other books. So then you've got these human queens who are siding with Hybern, and please know, the last time that humans went to war, it was against Hybern, because Hybern is very pro humans being slaves, and these queens are like, nope, I'm down for immortality, please, I want to become a fae, and I'm like, wait, you were all raised with this super anti-fae mentality that fae are evil, and yet you're ready to jump on the fae bandwagon? What are you gonna think when you guys roll up back home and like, guess what, we're all fairies now? Like, do you not think that's gonna cause some problems? But I still enjoyed it. I'd give this one a solid 3.75, enjoyable. I like the side crew, but I'm saving a lot of my opinions for book 3 because I've already finished it and I have thoughts. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, for my opinion on A Court of Mist and Fury, I give it a 3.75. If you disagree with me, that's totally cool. Leave your comments down below if there's something you'd like to see me take a crack at in particular in the future, and I will talk to you guys in a little while.